All right, so welcome to another video from the chart readers. We're going to take a look at the EV sector. As always, we're going to look at the daily and the weekly. We'll use our moving averages. There's none here, but we will make and use some support and resistance lines and then wind it out with these lower indicators down here. So as always, we'll start with the big boy or big girl, right? And Tesla would be that for the EV. So Tesla just did a split. So we did have lines previously, but I'm obviously gonna have to redraw them because, you know, the price moved, right? But look, overall, we're at a point where the major markets are not looking good. There's a little bit of concern looking on the NASDAQ. And again, if the NASDAQ's not going to do well, you got to expect a lot of the tech stocks within the NASDAQ industry to not do well as well, right? So it does seem pretty evident to that with Tesla, right? What really has happened in the last week or so since I made the last video. So we've been dancing with the 200, right? And again, despite the fact that the split happened, it's the same chart. The only thing is the dollars move, right? So don't worry about that happening. That said, we've basically been playing with this 200, and unfortunately, really over the last, actually a couple days, really since this day, right? Since the 19th, we've basically been trading under the 8. This day opened over the 8, but it definitely closed well under, right? Same here. It opened over, but it closed under, right? At this point, look, we've clearly lost the 200. We've clearly lost the 20, and it looks like we've now lost the 8 and are coming to here, right? I've said a couple times, as hard as it is to break multiple lines, it should be hard to lose multiple lines. So the fact that there's 2 right here might give a little bit of support, but I mean, that's an ugly RSI down here, right? We can clearly see this green guy's going this way. It's working its way down while the red looks pretty horizontal, right? Same with the MACD. The green is clearly under and it's actually coming back to this negative line. And the red's just kind of staying up, not as dramatic, right? So on the daily, this is definitely a little worrisome, right? I'll come to the weekly and I'll probably draw some lines here. Just it'll look better when we translate as well. But what's happened on the weekly, right? We made some really good moves in early July into August, right? The last month has been pretty good, month and a half, right? It just as you know, we got to this mid-August, end of August, it just the last couple weeks really have been kind of sluggish, right? So again, as the majors go, so will these big players in it. So let me make a couple lines from here and then I'll go into the daily to see if we need to add or remove any. So do a couple here and then I'll go a couple up as well just to here, I think we'll just use this for now. Okay, let me go into the daily and see if we need any more lines. All right, so we have a couple down, a couple up. I think that's not bad. There's definitely a good cluster here, right? I'm sure we can make another line or two. But yeah, look, if you lose 272, you're going to start coming into this zone where these 2 lines are going to be the 100 as well as the 50 moving average. And really, if we lose those, 250 seems pretty likely. So again, this obviously says 251 and change, but I'm just using round numbers. So be careful with Tesla here. So next up is Mullen. So Mullen, I remember being a little on the negative side, and clearly it's making its way down, right? So the last thing I did talk about, because I was watching this, we could not lose this 0.78, and really, I mean, we lost it pretty dramatically, and at this point, we've made it all the way down to this 0.62. Clearly today, this line was enough to give us a nice little bounce, right? I am really happy to see it. And look, in a lot of ways, this channel is a pretty good looking gap fill, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red days in a row, and we're in a good channel. This could be an interesting play. I know I've been a little pessimistic on Mullen, but if it could get over the 8, I think there's a pretty good shot it actually could get to the 0.78. Now, again, a couple things. The NASDAQ is not doing well at all. It definitely needs to be noted, right? But the RSI, I've generally said the lowest you like to see it is 30. Hey, look, this thing's gotten real low. It's gotten as low as 12, right? So it for sure can still get worse. But this could be an interesting channel to play with if a couple things happen, right? If you get over the 8, I could see us going here. Even just a little ride to the 8 could be interesting because, again, there's nothing but red here, right? And there is some history. Interesting. But it's actually still red. Look, yeah, there's only red in this little channel that I'm talking about, right? Down here we have a green guy, but this is an interesting little channel, actually. I will say this one could be played with caution. It looks like there's a nice percentage here, actually. So, play this with caution, though. Again, I hate a stock that is under the 8. So, do as it was, but it kind of looks like the green is peaking here. Mullen, look, I've been pretty negative about it because, again, I've really seen only negative, but this 62-cent to 78-cent channel could be pretty interesting. And I do like this, actually, right? It looked like it wanted to crash, but then it decided to come back up, right? So I like how the day actually played out. Yeah, this one could be interesting. I will say that one last time because I did repeat myself. Again, look, there's not much to see here, right? It's almost identical to the daily chart, right? But we are in a place, here is some historical. So it does look like, what number is that? 69 cents. So we'll call it roughly 70 cents. I wonder if that is what the 8 is. Look at that. The 8 is 68 cents. So I think that was close. So a 70 cent to 78 cent run could be pretty interesting. And that right there is about 10%. So again, a couple different ways to play Mullen. I could see that 68 to 70 range being a little bit of a difficult gap, but that 70 to 78 could be pretty nice. LIDR, LIDAR. Okay, oh man, did we go below my last line? Ooh, ugly. Okay, so, man, I remember when LIDAR looked like it was going on a really good run. Clearly, this is what happens when you lose lines and moving averages, right? It tried to make an attempt at getting over the 8. It was also kind of trying to get back in this little channel, but no, it just made its way back down. Again, it didn't fall. Man, I can't, there's actually no more history. So it gets a little hard at this point where there is no more history, right? So LIDAR with a really ugly RSI, with a pretty bad MACD, and just literally no more lines to draw, right? Because I'm going to come on a weekly, and again, there's no more history to draw. This is one I just simply would say, hey, be careful. Be careful. And yeah, I wouldn't touch this with any sort of free money, let alone my money, right? I wouldn't use just earnings that I got on this. Obviously, get over the 8, and maybe we'll reconsider a lot of this bad boy. But yeah, LIDAR is in a lot of trouble, and that's really sad, actually. That is. EvGo. So what's happening here? Okay. Obviously, kind of the same run that we saw with LIDAR. Clearly not as hard a drop, but I mean, we're in a pretty important place right now, right? We're sitting in this like very fat cluster of moving averages, and either we're gonna break up or we're gonna break down. I'll tell you, this RSI doesn't look good, MACD doesn't look good, overall NASDAQ doesn't look good. I'd be a little worried with EvGo here. Let me see what the weekly looks like. So, again, it looks like we almost look like we break the 50 cleanly, right? That's just such a strong week. That following week really hurt. We've been pretty much saved by this 20 right here. But yeah, EvGo definitely doesn't look as bad as LIDAR, right? There's definitely some positivities that you could kind of see from this, but yeah, unfortunately, this is getting a little too tight for comfort. I will say that. Again, we see this uncertainty line right here, right? I think some of these might be dropping earnings, so I don't know if earnings might be able to help, but oh man, this is looking a little worrisome across some of these. So again, looking at VLDR, so really the same RSI on these dailies. That's really disappointing to see. Again, you should know I do like the RSI a little bit more than the MACD. I kind of use the MACD to reconfirm the RSI, right? That said, honestly, Yeah, right. We made what looked like a good break. This is a very familiar drop to LIDR. That's really what I don't like. It seems like the 50 did a really good job of catching it, but again, the 50 is only going to catch it so much, right? And there are two lines that are really tight. I don't honestly remember why I drew them, but it seems actually kind of reasonable, kind of looking at this chart, right? But yeah, it's this is just a little too tight for comfort, in all honesty, you know. And with the Mullen one that I was a little more optimistic on, I feel like that was a little more leaning towards just a meme gap fill than it was anything long term, right? So let me just kind of go back and reemphasize that. But again, this weekly doesn't look as bad as the rest. But again, if we lose the 8 on the weekly, that's going to be horrible, right? Because again, a bad weekly means a lot of bad days, right? So yeah, this general sector is definitely hurting, right? And that's generally why I kind of try to start with the bigger one. Because look, if Tesla's not doing well, it's pretty common to see the rest follow. But you know, again, that's also why we go through all these, because there might be that one outlier that's worth it, right? So here, again, kind of the same view on Solo, right? Made a good run, definitely dropped. This 50 again was kind of a nice little save. It definitely was. However, it's just, we have such a cluster of moving averages. It's a little worrisome to say the least. So again, we have just the RSI is almost the exact same thing, and they've all really been around the same number, right? For me, the RSI number, obviously I've said 30 is generally the lowest. We saw an example of 12 earlier, but they've all been around that 40. They all kind of have this like initial hinge down. Yeah, there's a couple repeated signs across these tickers, right, that I don't like. So this one doesn't have as good a weekly, right? So far, again, it's still early in the week, but we are actually under the 8, right? We tried to go over the 8, and we've now, over the 20, and we've now been under the 20 for actually 3 weeks now. But this is the first week. Again, still early in the week, but this is the first week under the 8. That's never a good thing, right? And look, it's somewhat coinciding with the 50 here, right? So Solo. PSNY, Polestar. Man, this is another one. Look, just, again, I'm telling you, these lines are here for a reason, right? So it lost it. It really tried to come back. It clearly couldn't, and it lost it, right? From there, all it really was also doing is riding under the 8, right? It came close. It actually almost tested the 8, but all we've been doing is riding this 8 moving average down and losing support, right? Look, this is another one where I literally can't make more lines because I have no more history, right? This is not that old a ticker. So at this point, the best thing I can say is, you know, look for some sort of jump. But again, if you've watched these videos enough, you know this, I'm not touching this with any sort of anything unless we're over the 8. Like, just, oh my gosh, right? And again, it's a lower RSI than some of them others were, but look, I think we've even been in this level before, right? Like, we've seen 19s, we're at 22. There's no history to save us, right? There's literally no support because we've never been down here, right? This is new water. So yeah, be careful. Again, I know there's a lot of hype around this. I know the meme army can definitely do some crazy shit, but man, you know, you don't want to be stuck waiting for that. So ChargePoint, I'm not going to lie again, because this one was a requested one. So this one I've been watching. I think their earnings weren't that bad, but their after hours didn't do what I thought it would. So I'd watch this one only to see how it looks from the earnings. I didn't really go in deep on it. I try to not play earnings. Trust me, that's way too risky a thing. But I think I saw a flash of that on the news. So just check that out, lines aside. Looking at basically only the lines, look, this again doesn't look that good, right? Same cluster of moving averages, this 40 range RSI with the green going down. I mean, you know, it's I've said it. Correlation is good. Excuse me. Correlation is good. You want to see the same kind of things across, you know, a number of the same sectors. I want to see the same thing across the big 3 markets. Unfortunately, they're all kind of in the negative side right now, right? So again, No new lines need to be drawn. Obviously, across all of these is let's either bounce on one of these lines or like, you know, don't hold too long. It's not financial advice, but yeah, things are looking a little gloomy out there. Be careful.